Tip number 8 has to do with eighth notes. They're so common that they get taken for granted. Why do I need to do a tip on eighth notes? Everybody knows what eighth notes are. Well, maybe. But I find with a lot of my students, when they're working on cultivating a strong sense of rhythm, their quarter notes are not solid because they're not considering the eighth notes. So they tap their foot and they're going one, like pretend this is my foot because my foot is out of frame. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But that stuff doesn't stay steady because they're not actually doing the subdividing in their head or anywhere else in their body. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. That's so important to consider the ands, because the and is what keeps all the other stuff where it belongs. So I'm going to try to play some rhythm without thinking about the subdivision, without thinking about the eighth notes, and then I'll try to see what happens when I do think about it. So I'm just going to think 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, now I don't know if that felt good or not. I really couldn't tell. But I wasn't thinking about the subdivisions. Now I'm going to do it again, and in my mind, I'm going to be thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like there's this thing I see drummers do sometimes when they're not playing on their hi-hat. The hi-hat is the part of the drum kit that is often where the eighth notes go. So you're doing like kick on 1 and 3 and snare on 2 and 4. You're doing like kick, snare, and in between that you've got eighth notes. But sometimes in like the first verse of a song, because the drummer wants to not start with the kit all in, they want to start with kind of a broken down feel and then add the hi-hat maybe on the second verse or on the chorus. They'll just kind of hit their leg, which is not going to be very loud on the microphone that's on the snare. So they're going like kick, snare, and over here they're just playing eighth notes on their leg that you don't hear if you're listening to the record or if they're on a stage. But that is a solid part of the timekeeping. And we don't really have that on the guitar because both of our hands are involved. I guess you could tap eighth notes with your foot maybe, but that's a lot of work. So it has to be just in your mind, but 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and really keep that subdivision going. That's going to make sure that all of your quarter note stuff feels really right where it belongs, because those subdivisions, those eighth note subdivisions, they take care of business, really. I don't know how else to say it. So that's one part of eighth notes, how they might be important to you when you're playing chords, when you're playing rhythm. But I also want to talk about when you're soloing, thinking about in a measure of 4/4 time, there's 8 eighth notes, right? So let's pick 3 of them and see if we can play a melodic phrase that's informed by just the rhythm. So I'm going to play on 1 and the and of 2 and the and of 4. So if I'm counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that's going to be like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so. Now I'm going to try to play melodically off of that, and I'll play in A minor, just since we're already there with the chords I was playing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and if you get what I'm doing, there's not a preset melody. I'm just thinking A minor, and I'm thinking about getting on those hits, and that winds up creating melody. So I'll do it again. Same hits. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 right? We could do it in a different key. We could pick different hits to play. Thinking about melody as being driven by rhythm can be a really interesting way to create melodies. It's also a place that I sometimes am coming from when I'm working on coming up with a part on somebody's record. I might look for either where the drummer is and try and link up with the drummer in those important hits, or try to find the spaces where the drummer isn't, or where the rest of the band isn't, and just find little holes where I can play something in space that's not already taken. So I have to be thinking about all of the possible places. Of course, there's music that goes into 16th notes and triplets, and I don't have tips for all the possible subdivisions, but eighth notes are a great place to start, because they're in almost every kind of music. There's eighth notes, and there's 8 of them. And then in longer phrases, you could have a 2-bar phrase where you've got 16 of them. So I'm going to do now 1, the and of 2, the and of 4, and then 3 and. So, and I'm going to do this with chords now. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So that was a cool thing that I could maybe turn that into a jam or a song or a part of a song that was really just about thinking about eighth notes. And you could do this over and over again and bring this into any practice session, thinking about rhythm, thinking about eighth notes. And maybe you have 8 little pieces of paper that you line up on your desk, and you take some away, and you just play on the ones where the paper is left. Or if you want to do a 2-bar phrase, you have 16 pieces of paper, or longer if you've got a big enough desk. So own your eighth notes and see what you can do with them melodically, rhythmically. Yeah, there's a lot there, really. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this week's tip. It's part of a series. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm doing this New Year's series called 10 Tips for Intentional Practice. It's kind of like a New Year's resolution series specifically for guitar players. I've come up with 10 things that I think are important for just about any kind of player, whatever your level, whatever your interest is. I think you'll find something here that will help you set a good intention for growth on the guitar in this year. If you haven't already subscribed to Guitar Tips, that's this channel, right now would be a perfect time to subscribe. And if you liked this video, then please give it a thumbs up, like, and make sure to tune in next week for another tip in the series.